what city would you be the mayor of if not Celina?
I think out in Marfa, Texas, they got a beer drinking goat out there. And I think that's just that people draw there.
Welcome to CelinaRadio.com. Recorded right here in Celina, Texas, a quiet little dusty, sleepy town that has absolutely nothing going on. Guys, this is Celina, Texas. And this is also some really fantastic background music today. That's right, straight out of Sweden. And there's no connection to this music and the guest today. It's just really awesome music. But it's not the best part of today. The best part of today is that I get to spend some time with you talking about Celina, Texas. Something we have in common, something we both love, something that really pulls us all together as a city. It's just our love for Celina, Texas, right? And today I've got someone on the show that has played a very big part in getting Celina, Texas to where it is right now. And not only that, but on the road to where it's going. And that person is Mayor Sean Terry. Now, you've probably seen Sean do his videos, and you've probably heard him on other podcasts, but let me tell you, you've never heard Sean Terry like this before. We had an absolute blast, and he's a very straight-shooting, strong-willed, very knowledgeable man, and I have just the utmost respect for him coming on the show, doing what he did for this show, doing what he's done for the city of Celina. It's just good stuff. Now, I'll tell you what else is good stuff is this weekend, Saturday, July the 2nd from 5 until 10 p.m., Celina is having Splash and Blast out at Old Celina Park, and I'm going to be there. We've got a booth set up, CelinaRadio.com booth set up. We're going to be recording. We're going to be doing some podcasting, some broadcasting, and just generally having a really good time getting to meet people just like you. You're also going to get to have water slides, tons and tons of vendors, really good food, really good music, and then, of course, at the end of the night, some fantastic fireworks. So come out this Saturday, July 2nd, from 5 until 10 p.m. Bring the family, bring your friends, bring everybody, and let's have a really good time at the annual Splash and Blast event for Celina, Texas. And guys, until this Saturday when you can come out and we can shake hands and say hello, why don't you sit back and relax and let's go on a little adventure with Mayor Sean Terry. All right, guys, I am here today with Mayor Sean Terry, and he was gracious enough to decide to sit down, spend a little time with us, and talk a little bit about what's going on in the city, what's going on in his life, and all the craziness that can be Celina, Texas. So, Sean, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, Ron. Thanks for this opportunity to I love talking about the city and my family, and just thanks for the honor for being here.
Well, absolutely. And we are in a back room right now. We're actually in council chambers or kind of behind it. What is this room that we're in right now?
So this is kind of a multi-use room. We're limited on space a lot of times. And so this room is something that our engineers, development services uses for pre-development meetings. And then we use them for a breakout room for council executive sessions. So it's kind of used for a little bit of everything.
So would you say that some of the Celina magic has happened in this room before?
I think it's just where we hang out and talk. Probably more magical back when it was a church. This is the old Methodist church. So there was a lot of probably deals that happened back here then. But I think it's just, it's a place where they can come, developers can come. Because nowadays when the developer comes in, they bring their attorneys, they bring their development, their own engineers. So you need a space that has plenty of room, and we have that back here.
It is. Everything that I see right now is very nice in how things are put together in Celina. So this was originally a Methodist church, you said. And now when you walk in, you see the outside, you see the old architecture and that sort of thing. But when you walk inside, wow, what a completely different feel.
Yes, it is. And we want that. We want it to feel like from the outside, we want to keep our heritage of what it looked like before. But the inside, obviously the new technology and a place where our employees can come that they can feel like in a comfort area where they can get their job done.
Give me an idea with the city just being as crazy as it is right now. We're experiencing this amazing growth, and we're in just a fantastic time to be in Celina, Texas. What does a day in the life of the mayor of Celina, Texas look like? What do you do in an average day?
It varies each day, but right now, really, since probably the last 6 months, our commercial interest has really boosted. So every morning I get up and check my emails. I don't come to City Hall every day because I can meet people anywhere. Most of the developers are around Dallas that are moving up this way. And so I get up, check my emails. One thing I think people don't realize, mayor and council, our job is to guide the city manager, give him what we think our citizens want, and then he runs the day-to-day. So it's not my job to be in meetings with staff every day. It's my job to make sure. So if we get a citizen, say they have a trash complaint or something, I immediately forward that email to my city manager, and he dictates it where it needs to go. And I always like to look like the hero, like all council should do, is basically let city staff fix it and then call them up to make sure it got fixed, because our citizens demand customer service. We're in that business. And so each day is a little different. Depending on after a council meeting, there's a lot of papers you have to sign. So I typically come in the day or two after council that evening most of the time, and we'll sign all the papers. A lot of meetings, a lot of meetings, a lot of phone calls. Technology can be a good thing sometimes, and sometimes it can be a bad thing. And in a case of a mayor not having to be boots on the ground every day, having that cell phone has really changed the lives of how you can communicate.
So tell me this, since you're probably constantly getting text messages and phone calls and about things like that, and they're important, my trash didn't get picked up, all the way on up to, hey, we've had, a structure fire in the city, or, big things like that. How does your family feel about that phone? Like, do they ever tell you, hey, just, put that aside for a while, quit being mayor and just set that aside? Or do they kind of understand that for a time period as you serve, that's how it's going to be?
Being on the fire department 11 years, they wanted me to put my pager up or my radio up, and we had set times to where, okay, I'm not going to go on a call tonight, and then I'd have to sneak off. And but one time there was only 7 or 8 of us on the fire department, and so now my kids are older. I got a daughter that's a senior at A&M. I got a son that's going to be as a junior now at A&M, and so I think earlier when they were kids, they were a little more, but Dad, put that phone up. Now they've kind of had their own lives, and my wife, we've been married 30 years in January, and so she's lived with it most of her life. Even our early days in marriage down at A&M, I did internships with the DA's office and was always involved because I feel like community service is very important. And so we raised our kids that way. But there is times that she'll say, hey, it's my time now, so you need to put that up and stuff. But when you're passionate about something, as you know, it's hard to turn that switch off.
Absolutely. And this is a life of service. And it sounds like you said you've been working for the fire department before. You've done internships in city government. So give me kind of the quick resume, the overview. How did you make this professional journey to where you are today as the mayor of Celina, Texas?
Back in high school, I graduated from Gunner. My dad was a coach. My mom was a teacher. And they'd always taught us about being good servants, leaders. And so I remember when I was 16 years old, I could join a fire department, and I joined in Gunner. And I remember, having a pager. And I remember one thing very vivid. My dad, talking about you get special treatment. Well, I went to, we had the pagers in, and I was in a classroom setting with my mom as a teacher, and my pager went off. And I said, Mom, I need to go. Because back then in Gunner, there was nobody on during the day. Our chief now is the mayor in Gunner today, Mark Miller. But I remember going to a grass fire call, and I thought I was saving the world, man. I'm driving the truck, stopping, putting the grass fire out. And my dad drove by, and he goes, if you're late to practice, you got to run. And I go, Dad, I'm helping save the world, so to speak. And I remember getting to practice, and he ran my rear off after that. But it didn't deter me from wanting to do good. I just knew that, hey, there's consequences that even come with volunteering. And so I think that journey led me to when I went to A&M on a full football scholarship, and I really wanted to stay involved. And during the season, the NCAA, you could not have a job. But in the summers, you could. So I would intern with the DA's office. I had some aspirations, maybe getting in the Secret Service or something. But it kept me involved with meeting a lot of cool people. Then I met my wife after my freshman year. We got married, and her dad and Rick Perry were very close. And so we as athletes would go and help. When he was the ag commissioner then, we would go to some of his fundraisers. And that really kind of started getting me interested in politics a little bit. Fast forward to coming to Celina back in 1998, and immediately got on the fire department. And back then, that's kind of like being in politics. You're in people's houses every day if they have, see them at their worst or at their best. And so we helped mow the baseball fields then. You kind of did anything that needed to be done. And so I've always had jobs, whether it's outside sales or the current company I'm with now, that always had that servant mindset too. They allowed their employees to do things. And so Corbett Howard, who's actually retiring from the city today, came to me when they opened up a place 6 on city council. They became a home rule city. And he said, hey, I think you would be good. And so why don't you think about running for city council? So I said, sure. And so I ran and won that year. And that kind of started, I never had aspirations to be mayor. I really never had aspirations to be on council. I just had aspirations. What can I do to help my common friend or foe, so to speak, that makes their lives easier? And that's kind of what I've always lived on.
So I understand, and I do my due diligence before I do an interview like this. And I was told about a time that let me see if I can shape this up just right. I may get part of it wrong, but there was a water leak. And you went out apparently with someone from the water department, and this was like a big deal. And you actually brought like a camper or something to that. Does any of that ring a bell with you? That doesn't sound like a person who is not interested in helping. That sounds like somebody who's fully committed. So tell me about that.
So it was a time that we had where I think we were down to like 9 degrees, and we had a major water leak out by Morgan Lakes, and it had to be, nobody had water. And so Joseph was our public works director at the time. And so they were kind of wanting the fire department to be on standby out there we didn't have an ambulance in. That was back when Frisco, I can't remember if it was Frisco or Prosper that ran our ambulance service then, but they wanted one on standby in case they got hypothermia. I said, well, I got a motorhome. Why don't I just bring it out here? We'll keep them a warming station. We'll make coffee. And so what that turned out to be was, it was kind of funny. Just on a whim, I went home, told my wife, I'm taking it. Well, make sure you cover it up. We don't want mud, and wasn't even thinking about that part of it, you know?
Right.
And so we drive it down, and it was the only water tower we really had at the time, or the second one, I guess, we had out by Morgan Lakes. We had the one downtown and that one. And it was a crappy road that you had to drive down too. And so I drove the motorhome down there. We set it all up. Well, Morgan Lakes, there was Guy Gibbs lived, his backyard faced there. And so we ended up bringing that motorhome down there and setting in there, and the neighbors started seeing what was going on. So Guy brought over his industrial heaters and helped put them in the hole. People from the neighborhood started bringing them over food, and it became a community bonding moment to where you really knew, man, this place is special because it's 8 degrees outside and we have neighbors standing around this hole. Okay, we're timing you. You got to get out in 5 minutes. You get hypothermia, so come sit in the motorhome. And so we did that all night, and it took about 5 hours, but we had the whole city back on water by the next morning. And so those are things that it wasn't just me, but the community came together and made a bad situation into something positive that allowed our guys to be in a safe environment and be able to get their leak fixed and go home.
But you're the guy who came out there with a motorhome.
I did bring the motorhome out there. Yeah, that was one for the ages right there. That was a lot of fun.
And that story, like I said, is still talked about. I was actually at dinner recently with somebody else from the city, and they're like, "Oh my God, you've got to ask him about this." It was a great because it's kind of an idea of who you are as a person, and it certainly takes exactly what we said. You've got to have a spirit of service. You've got to be willing to go through a lot of stuff when you're in politics and in a growing city like this. I can only imagine that at times it brings a lot of challenges.
It does, yes.
So that's kind of the deal, and we're not going to get off heavy deep into anything like that. We're actually going to take a little bit of a different route. I'm going to ask you some questions, and you're not prepared for any of this.
No, I'm not yet. Nope.
Nothing in advance. So you know nothing about what I'm going to ask. So but I do have to ask this first. How nervous are you about the questions I'm about to ask?
Not at all. And here's why. I've at A&M, I was Deep Hunter from Gunner. That was my stage name, so to speak.
Right.
And so I remember my sophomore year at A&M, a punter is not the most glamorous position, And so R.C. Slocum came over to me at we played in the Cotton Bowl 3 times. So we had a breakfast a prayer breakfast that we had. And so our quarterback was Corey Pullig. He was supposed to be speaking at this. He got sick. And so R.C. came over and said, "Hey, I need you to get up there and speak." And I said, "Okay, coach, whatever you want me to do." So I get up on stage and I have Lou Holt sitting on one side of me and I've got Terry Bradshaw on the other. Well, I'm trying to write down notes of what am I going to talk about, because you're talking to a Christian-based crowd. You have to be correct on what you say. And Lou looked at me and go, "What are you doing, son?" And I said, "Sir, I'm a punter. I'm here just trying to write notes." And he goes, "If you speak from the heart, you never need notes. Just say and answer truthfully. You don't have to write anything." So I've taken that to heart my whole life. And unless I'm really talking specific numbers politically, where I got to say, okay, 58% of your water is this or that, or whatever the situation might be, I just get up there and go with it. So that's why I usually don't get nervous, because unless it's something engineering or analytical that I have to have, I just talk.
Right. And you strike me as the kind of person that kind of takes everything in stride. You're probably a very, very good fit for the city right now, going through everything that it's growing through, its growing pains, because you kind of take it in stride. Am I right about that observation?
Yeah, 100%. I think you take it in stride. You have to grow with it. I think you have to have criticism. You have to have constructive criticism. And you have to look at, it's not reinventing the wheel. You have to look at other cities that have done this and be willing to go talk to other mayors and council and city managers and see what's the best fit for you. But also, there's certain things that they have done great and there's certain things they didn't. But I think you're right. I think I'm just, we absorb it all in, then we do what's best for our city.
Right on. Okay, so let's just pretend that Celina doesn't exist, but you still got to be the mayor of a city. What city would you like to be a mayor of if it wasn't Celina?
I think out in Marfa, Texas, they got a beer drinking goat out there. And I think that's just that people draw there. And I think being in a small town, that's one thing that I miss about Celina is everybody calling you for everything for a while. And it gets old for a little bit. But I think out in Marfa and the West Texas area would be cool to be, kind of the old Western style feel to where, you got a beer drinking goat and you kind of have a little, old town, old school, where the guys still have a place to go drink coffee and you sit down there and talk to them.
Very, very good. So when I got to Celina, what is now Tender was the Bobcat Cafe. Mm-hmm. And that's where all the senior men would go and kind of collect and do that thing. It was still that kind of town, and drink coffee and talk. And I just thought that was the best thing ever. And I really hope that it would last forever. But of course, like I always say, everybody wants what we have, and you can't fault people for wanting to come here and get it. But how do you feel about all the growth? I mean, are you comfortable with it? Obviously, you've really come to a solid point in your own mind because you play a pivotal role in it. But what do you think about all the growth?
I like small town, okay? But I also understand as the mayor and our council, we're going to grow no matter if we like it or not. And I can give examples of cities, and I won't call them out, that have said we're not going to grow. Well, guess what? I work for a developer and understand both sides of the coin. And so there's laws and legislative things in place that somebody that owns that land that wants to sell it to be developed, they can do certain things with it. They don't have to have city input to do that. And so we're in that situation where we have more toll road frontage and Preston road frontage than Dallas does. So you're going to grow. And so I'd rather have manageable growth, and Light Farms kind of helped kick that off. Even though they're in the mud, they're not technically in the city today, they came in, and past leadership were able to negotiate things with them to give them sewer and water, but they had to build to our standards. And so growth is a necessary evil because it's going to happen. I would rather for our staff and us control that, and I hate the word control, but that's what you're doing, getting the best houses that are built, because our fire and police are going to be protecting it. And so I wish we could keep it small, but I also believe in property rights. And if somebody wants to sell that property and they want to develop that property, we just want to be there to help them, guide them to get the maximum best development we can get.
Absolutely. And I understand that. I think that's part of why you're in the position you're in right now, because it's got to be somebody who still loves and appreciates the small town and the historic value of Celina and all of that we love, and can help manage the growth, because it's 100% coming. So we're going to take a little sidestep. If you could be in any movie, what movie would you be in?
I think Friday Night Lights would be a cool one. With being old, again, Coach Hollingshead was at A&M when I was there, who lived that life. So I got to hear some internal stuff.
Right.
But I think the Friday Night Lights of I love Friday Night football. That is to be the best thing in the state of Texas. So I think being in Friday Night Lights would be cool, to be that quarterback role, and, all the cheerleaders like you and that kind of stuff. So I think Friday Night Lights would probably be the one I would like to be in.
It's Celina being such a football town. Don't you feel like we kind of have a little bit of parallel connection with that whole thing? I mean, we love football here. It's everything. and there's a lot of orange pride out here. So I've always thought that we kind of parallel that in some ways.
We do. You're exactly right. And Kenny Chesney choosing to do his video here and stuff, we have a lot of similarities to what they had out in West Texas on that.
Absolutely. So what did you want to be when you were growing up?
I wanted to be Secret Service. I really wanted to be in Washington protecting the president. I always thought, the bulletproof cars, and I've had some relatives that were Secret Service or Texas Rangers, and I always thought that would be an ultimate great job, would be in that realm of Secret Service and traveling around the world and doing that stuff.
Right. And you said that your kids are how old now?
So my daughter just turned 22. She is a senior at A&M. She'll graduate in December. My son is 20. And he will graduate. He's a junior at Texas A&M. He'll graduate in 22 years, 2024. They both, grew up kindergarten all the way through. And that was one thing for me. We moved around a bunch as a kid. My dad was a coach, which I've got friends all over. But my wife grew up in Allen from day one all the way. And so we wanted our kids to be in the same environment. And they were in Celina at a time where it was small, started growing. But they're both, love the city, love growing up here, graduating from here. But now they've got their own lives they're starting to working on, and it's still cool for them to want to come back to see the events that we have. But yeah, so my daughter's 22 and my son's 20.
So what kind of advice do you give them being at that point in their life right now, early 20s? What's the best fatherly advice that you give your kids right now as far as the whole world's about to open up to them? What do you tell them?
Don't get in a rush to grow up. And that's what I tell them a lot. Have fun. We've always said, we'd rather for you to volunteer and work somewhere, pay it forward, as I always call it, but enjoy life. My son lived through the COVID time. He lived through 2 ACL surgeries that he had when he was a good athlete, but he had 2 ACL surgeries in high school. I never had to deal with any of that. I was fortunate I never got hurt. And so I always tell them to don't grow up too fast and enjoy the time you have now, because this is the best time of your life. I got married when I was 20, and I wouldn't regret it to today. But I think they need to enjoy, because we live in a different environment than what we both grew up in.
If you were to recommend to everybody a great place to go for vacation, what would be your suggestion?
Man, I love Isla Mujeres. That's in Cancun. You fly into Cancun and you take a little shuttle over to Isla Mujeres Island. And the reason I like that is it's a golf cart community. It's only like 5 miles long and 3 miles wide. And so I don't like to sit around a lot. I like to get on the beach and stay for a while, but you can get in that golf cart and you can just adventure all over that island and not have to rely on somebody driving you around. And it's just so beautiful and peaceful, and it's not really commercialized yet. We found families over there. Our friends have been going for 20-something years. We've been going for about 5. But they have families over there that you can go pay and actually go sit down and have dinner in, a full Mexican dinner at their house with them, at their family sitting at the table. And so I think it's just a really cool, so laid back. You still have your technology, so your cell phone still works, but they have the best beaches and just a place to go and explore.
And you can literally hop in your golf cart and go all over. And that's very similar. You did your Facebook Live today, and we're talking about how we somewhat, city government encourages golf carts in Celina. Am I understanding that right?
You get that. If you're in a golf cart, you get that outdoor feeling of kind of while we play music downtown. You get that feeling of home, being home. And a golf cart gives you that freedom of that's why people love convertible cars. And so being able to have a golf cart, so if you live downtown or anywhere that you can, legally drive it on, it helps with parking too. You'll see downtown on the square, there'll be 15 or 20 golf carts. Think if those same 15 or 20 drove cars, it'd be a lot more packed down there. So I just think the golf cart gives you that sense of freedom, and it gives you that sense of family. When you've got your kids on there together, you don't really, you may have a radio on there, but being outdoors, it just gives you that sense of smelling the fresh air, going and seeing your neighbors. And that's why we really encourage, follow the rules on golf carts. But, Celina's going to be made up of a bunch of communities, but we want to keep our downtown as the heartbeat, I call it, where that's where they come and gather.
What is one of your favorite things about Celina? Celina is so much to so many people. You've drank the Kool-Aid, I've drank the Kool-Aid, and so many people have, and we love Celina. What about it just stands out to you? Like what's just amazing to you about Celina?
How you could be playing dominoes downtown and people are going to come support that. I think in some people's worst times when they have a tragedy and they post it online, how quickly people are there to help out and come to their need. a lot of it's anonymously. A lot of times they'll, hey, get this money to these people. We don't want to know it came from us. And so I think it's the giving and the caring factor that most people in Celina have, to when they see one of their own that's hurting, they want to lift them up somehow, whether it's to a church organization or just individually. I think you could be doing anything on the square and they're going to support you when you do it. And I think that, to me, is the special thing. Simple as lighting up the water tower. We've wanted to do that for years. And that's turned into its own mindset of, my kid's birthday, can you light it here? Or state championship teams, like we talked about our baseball team, and we've actually had to set standards now, because before, if our kids got second or third, we think that's good enough. The school's like, hey, let's put standards in place so when we do win state, we can do the water cannons over their deals. And, people think that's just easy to coordinate, but it's really not. Because say if you have a major fire in the town at the same time and you leave those people out, you have to have dedicated people come in. It was awesome when our soccer team got back, and we had officers that showed up in uniform that were off duty. They weren't even working, but they believe in that. And I think if we get our people believing and walking step in step with our citizens, they'll believe in that too. And I think that's one of the most special things about Celina is how people are so willing to step in and help others.
And if I were to see you on the square, we've got quite a few places now to eat, kind of centered around the square. What's one of the places where I might find you eating lunch one day?
I love all of them downtown. I love Lucy's. I think Lucy's, Lucy's came in when we had enough people really to keep them going. And Moses taking that over years ago, he has stuck with us. And I love the atmosphere in Lucy's. I love Papagayos, toasted walnut, everything we have down here. But I think Lucy's is my go-to place if I had a go-to place for eating lunch.
So the next question, what are you gonna order at Lucy's? What are you gonna tell people that they should try when you go to Lucy's?
Man, I like the buffalo chicken tenders, man. Those things are good. And I'm not a spicy eater, so don't let it fool you if you think you don't like spicy. But I love that, and then their chicken fried steak is just awesome.
I am 100% on board with you for that. I'm not haven't done the chicken tender thing, but I think I will if you recommend that.
They're good.
So yeah, that sounds good. And I feel like Lucy's, when you go in there and you see all the decoration and the whole vibe of the place, it just speaks Celina.
Yeah.
It really does, doesn't it?
It does. And like Tenders is the same way. You go in there, we've got so many great locations. I hate picking one, but I think, Lucy's, and they all do a great job giving back to the community, but Moses has stuck with us before it was cool to be in Celina, I guess. And those guys, I always want to respect them that made it through the tough times and didn't close their doors.
I'm going to rapid fire some questions to you that don't require a whole lot other than just a quick answer. We're going to get a little insight into Sean Terry real quick here, okay? All right, iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Mustard or mayonnaise?
Neither.
Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Vanilla.
Chili with beans or without?
With beans.
Pineapple okay on pizza or not okay on pizza?
Okay on pizza.
More cream or more sugar?
The same.
All right, that is awesome. Classic rock or classic country?
Classic country.
Ford or Chevy?
Ford.
Fruity Pebbles or Fruit Loops?
Fruity Pebbles.
You did not know we were going to ask these questions. Chewy or crunchy chocolate chip cookies?
Crunchy.
Acoustic or electric guitar?
Acoustic.
Now this is going to sound like a question I'm not asking. I practiced this question on somebody and they looked at me funny because the question is first base or third base. I mean playing the game of baseball, first base or third base.
First base.
Okay, and beach or mountains?
Beach.
1986 or 1999?
1986.
Orange juice with or without pulp?
With pulp.
Disney World or Disneyland?
Disney World.
Last thing you Googled was?
How to put up a ceiling fan.
Put up a ceiling fan. That's awesome. And it's more awesome that you remember. Larry, Curly, or Mo?
Larry.
Whole milk or skim milk?
Neither, no milk. I'm very picky if you don't know.
Yeah, well, you know what? You're very confident in your answers too, and I like that. So, okay, silver or gold?
Gold.
Harley, new Harley or new Corvette?
New Corvette.
Fred or Barney?
Fred.
Roadrunner or Coyote?
Roadrunner.
How many episodes of The Kardashians have you ever watched?
0.
We're in a tie for that one.
Yeah.
We're in a tie. Okay, then let me ask this. How many episodes of The Bachelor have you watched?
0.
Okay, we're running neck and neck here. I was really hoping to find something you're really interesting, but it sounds like, yep. Okay, so Miyagi-Do or Cobra Kai?
Cobra Kai.
There you go. Well, we're just running neck and neck here. Brown gravy or white gravy?
Brown gravy.
Brownies with or without nuts?
With nuts.
AM or FM?
FM.
Sausage or bacon?
Bacon.
Okay, you have to eliminate one letter from the alphabet. Which letter do you take out of the alphabet?
Probably Z.
You
Just
take
go with
Z
the last
out?
one.
Yep.
Yeah, just do Z.
Just not use
Yeah,
that
we don't
much.
use that much.
We don't need zebras. They can be ebras.
Yeah, they
and-
can be ebras.
Yeah, we can just go to the ooh and look at the ebras. So
That's right.
Absolutely. And if you could be any other, if you had to be an animal and not be a human, what animal would you be?
I would say probably, I'd like to be a bear.
You like to be a bear?
Yeah, be a big old bear.
I like
you
that.
get to sleep a lot and hibernate. I think I'd be the bear.
All right. Would you rather have every text you receive immediately read aloud by your phone or take a 2-hour bath in a tub full of leeches?
I'd rather have my text message read aloud. Yeah, forget the leeches.
All right. Would you rather have your mouth permanently taste like you just smoked a cigar, or would you rather get an unstoppable nosebleed every time you get on an airplane?
My mouth like a cigar. Yeah, I don't like blood.
Would you rather get stuck in an elevator that's one person over capacity for 2 hours, or have the color skin of a Smurf?
I'd rather be stuck in an elevator for 2
Some
hours.
of these
I've had a Smurf episode before, so that's a whole nother story.
Well, on episode 2 with Sean Terry, we
That's
come
right.
back and we're going to tell you how he became
A Smurf.
colored like a Smurf. So would you rather have every piece of plastic you've ever used reappear in your house, or I'm not going to read that one, or never be able to use toilet paper again?
I think the plastic needs to show up at the house.
That makes perfect sense. I think you're getting the easy ones here. Would you rather have the wrinkles of a 100-year-old or be unable to wear clothes that cover your belly button for the rest of your
Definitely
life?
give me wrinkles. I don't like my belly button to show, so let's do the wrinkles.
Oh my gosh. Okay. This one is kind of interesting. Would you rather never shower again, or would you rather only be able to walk sideways?
Well, that's a good one. I would say probably never shower again. Sideways would be, I like to walk straight ahead too much.
if this ever happens in real life, will you give me like a warning
Yeah,
so
I'll
I
let you
can
know.
kind of know the next time we do a podcast, instead of being across the table, we may be in separate rooms
Yeah.
and just do it remotely.
That's right.
You know, it's better than, hey, there's Sean Terry, the mayor. How do you know it's him? Because he's walking sideways.
Well, I just go outside when it's raining, see, and then say, that's
There you go. That's right. See, that's why you're the mayor.
that's right.
You
What's the
can
definition of a shower? We hadn't gotten into all the legal terms yet,
resolve these issues
That's right.
before they become big issues. I like that. So now, give me an idea real quick. We're about to wrap this up, but what kind of hobbies do you have? What do you like to do?
I love going to Texas A&M football. I love watching the football. I love watching the Cowboys. And just spending time with the kids. I love motorhoming. We talked about earlier, we like just going and, just getting in the bus as a family and taking friends and just going to places, whether it's the lake. My parents moved to Jacksonville, Texas about a year ago. Got a great place on the lake. We like going down there, hanging out by the water. And just, I like exploring things like that. And, again, talking about the golf cart freedom, I have that in my bus. When we get in there, we can drive, and you don't rely on anything when you get in that bus. Everything is self-contained, and as long as it works right, we're covered. And so I like getting out and doing that. I like watching sports, pretty much any sports, but mainly I love Aggie stuff. I'm on Letterman's board at Texas A&M. I stay very involved there. And so just going down there and, when you go back to your college town, it feels like you're in college again. So it keeps you young. And so we try to go as much as we can. But I like getting out and exploring that kind of stuff and just any sports I'm into.
I kind of feel like somebody may have given you a heads up on the next part of what we're doing on this podcast in order to wrap it up. Maybe not, but I heard that you like fishing. Is that?
I like a little fishing. I don't fish a hardcore, but I like to go fishing.
Okay, so here's what we've got set up. I have actually been in contact with the chief of police, who you just did a live event on Facebook with.
Yes.
So Chief Collison has agreed to participate in a bit of a challenge with you. And so because I was told that you love fishing, I thought I would give you a challenge that has to do with fishing. So if you look right there on that seat right behind us, you're going to see a child's fishing rod right there. And it's very safe because it doesn't have a hook on it or anything like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk out of this room. We're going to stop the podcast. We're going to turn on the camera. And we're going to set up a couple of little buckets for you. And you get to probably stand in council chambers or somewhere like that. And you're going to cast that rod. And you're going to get points for every time you either get it in or hit. I'm just going to say even if you hit one of the buckets, because I tried it. And it's not that hard. But we want to make it we want to make it fair here. But let me tell you what's riding on this. What's riding on this is that if you actually get past a certain number, if you can accomplish that, then the chief of police is going to bring you lunch from Papagayos.
Oh, good.
But here's the other side. If you don't, if he is able to accomplish more than you, then guess what? You've got to take him lunch.
So now, as we're going to do this, is he going to be here to do it at the same time? Because, we got a witness. I'm not sure I trust Chief being, he may just have to, he may do his numbers wrong or something.
You think he's going to go buy like a kid's rod and wheel?
Yeah, he's probably been practicing. Yeah, he practiced in his pool last night, I bet.
If you don't end up hating my guts after doing all of this, let me ask you, would you come back and do another episode of this later down the road?
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate you doing this. It's fun being able to sit down because we're getting such a fast-paced environment and people don't take the time to really get to know any of our elected officials and spend some time. We don't get paid to do this. We do it because we love the community. And, I've been doing this. It'd be 10 years in January I've been mayor and 4 years before that on council. So it's not like I just showed up and trying to change the world. We're trying to do the best we can to make a very good community, and I think we're succeeding based on most of the feedback we get.
Absolutely. And how else would anybody know that you like brown gravy over white gravy?
That's right. They wouldn't know that.
If we didn't do that today, how would they know?
I agree.
All right, guys, that is Sean Terry. And there you go. That is Sean Terry, the hard-hitting, pull-no-punches mayor of Celina, Texas. And you know what? That was so much fun to get to sit down and talk to him. He is truly a genuine person. And just like all leaders out there, just like me when I was in law enforcement, you either love me or you don't. And that's okay because there's a mission, there's a job to do. And Sean Terry is absolutely fully committed to doing that job. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you gained some insight and understand that there's a human being behind every one of our names. That was just so much fun. I would do that 10 times over again. I really sincerely enjoyed that. And that's what makes Celina so awesome. Because starting with Sean Terry, all the way down through the council, the staff, every single person who works in the city, volunteers in the city, loves it. And so do I. And so do you. And that's why I hope you come to the Splash and Blast this Saturday from 5 until 10 p.m. at Old Celina Park. Come over to the celinaradio.com booth and say hello. Bring your family, have a good time, and enjoy everything that Celina is right now. We all know that the city's growing super fast, so let's get out there right now and enjoy it as it is today. You've got some of the best neighbors, some of the best friends in this town, some of the best people live here. We've got great city governments. We've got just about everything you could possibly ask for in an amazing city. So come out and enjoy that, guys. And remember, July the 8th, we've got the video dropping of the challenge between the chief and the mayor. And there was a meal delivery, and somebody's going to get to name a donkey out at Carla Vargas Donkey Rescue after themselves. So it's either going to be the mayor or the chief's going to get to name a donkey after themselves. So you know what? That's awesomeness. And that's Celina. And that's celinaradio.com. Share it with your friends, post it on your social media, and most importantly, come on back for the next episode because we're going to keep having fun and doing awesome stuff. So guys, God bless, and I'll see you on the next episode.